Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the CLSR. And I'm your host, the counselor. And today we're going to talk about something that I know many of you have experienced, and I got to say, at least 95% of you don't know how to deal with it. You don't. You think you do. You can't even accept constructive criticism. So I know failure is hard for you to deal with. It's understandable if it's hard for you to deal with failure. We all have failure at one time or another, but why do we take it so hard? Why is it so devastating? I mean, it seems like it's ingrained in us. And I think it kind of is. Because when you go to school, that's what we get. We get the test, the assessment, the evaluation. And a lot of us base our feelings and our self esteem on our academic success. And it starts in childhood. This system is designed to point fingers at failure, right? It's hard. When you're racing, number one is always remembered. Two, three, and four, not even mentioned. Easily forgot. It's a competitive society. But failure is big. And how we deal with failure is even bigger. It's an issue. And we just don't understand failure. We got to learn that failure is not just a part of life. It has to be understood on a bigger level. We really need to look at it and how we're dealing with it and how other people perceive themselves when they're not achieving what they want to achieve. Or if they have a bump in the road, they give up, they fall apart, or others feel bad for years and years. Well, I just got to let you know failure is a part of life, and we need to understand it and embrace it and figure out we learn from our failure. Right? When I had mistakes when I was a kid, I worked on those mistakes, right? And you know what? I learned more. Today, next, you give kids academics, assessments, whatever they did on that test, they don't even get to think about it. You did that, that's it. Let's move forward. It's all about assessment. Failure in life, failure in family. How do we deal with it? How do you overcome this thing that most of us have real challenges? We have to be rational on how we feel about life, but we have to get grips on failure and understand that it's not the end of the world. Every day you wake up, you have a new opportunity to change things. And what about not trying to necessarily change it? What about accept it and move on? If you're not good at something, move on. Maybe it's a sign, right? Maybe you don't need to put all your energy and your might into something. Maybe no one has told you that it's okay to fail, and really mean it. And just say, stop focusing on the negative and focus on the positive and the appreciation. See, overcoming failure is about finding it in yourself to start again. First, you must overcome the sense of failure, the failure of a project, a relationship, or other goal. This might initially overwhelm you, but if you acknowledge your disappointment and accept mistakes, you'll be able to move on. Realistic optimism will help you form a new plan without setting yourself up for failure. Remember, your long term goal is resilience, the ability to adapt and thrive. Each failure is a chance for you to grow wiser. However, many of you do not see it that way, right? You got to feel your emotions. See, when you feel you have failed, you may be overcome with self recrimination, disappointment, and despair. Holding in your painful feelings can have negative effects on your health, your relationship, and your future success. Notice in each emotion as it comes to you. Take time to name that emotion, be it anger, sadness, fear, or shame. This will enable you to work through it without turning it on yourself or others. I want you to take time to process your feelings. If you try to fix or move past your disappointment before knowing how you feel, you may act rashly. Suppressing painful feelings can lead to health problems such as chronic pain, sleep deficiency, and even heart disease. I said it, heart disease. It will affect your health. You got to accept what happened. I know you don't like it, despite what people say. You got to. After the first shock of disappointment wears off, whether it takes minutes, hours, days, or weeks, work on accepting what happened. It will be harder to move forward if you blame yourself or others, or even pretend that what happened didn't matter or didn't happen. Write down or reflect on everything that happened, what led to it, what the consequences were. State only the facts without blame, judgment, or justification. I want you to write in a journal if you have one, or write yourself a letter, even better. See, like if you write a letter, that's great. That's personal. You don't have to write it to anyone. See, if writing is not a helpful form of expression for you, find someone you can talk to, a trusted friend, a family member, or a counselor that can help you move past denial. Solicit the perspective of any involved parties who were not emotionally invested in the situation. Like, for example, a friend might have seen early signs of a fissure in a failed relationship. If you find yourself unable to move past denial, you may refuse to discuss or acknowledge what happened, or look at how you may have contributed to the failure, or you ignore the repercussions of what happened. Examine what is holding you back. What are you afraid will happen if you acknowledge a failure? Maybe you feel like a failure because your child has a substance abuse problem, and instead of dealing with it, you remain in denial. Her or him money to buy clothes when you know she is spending it on drugs. You're going to have to identify your fears. These fears that are irrational or excessive. Do you worry that failure calls your intelligence and capability into question? Do you imagine that you are the only one who has ever experienced a setback and that you are being judged? Are you worried that everyone will be disappointed or lose interest in you if you do not succeed? I want you to reflect on the consequences of action and inaction. What can you achieve with action? What might be worsened by inaction? Maybe you feel your relationship failed, and to avoid going through the pain of another breakup, you refuse to date or examine what went wrong in the relationship. Inaction might allow you to protect yourself from rejection or the emotional pain of a breakup. However, it also means you are missing out on the fun and companionship of dating and might be turning away from a potential great relationship. You're going to have to think your way through failure. You're going to have to practice positive reframing. You see, positive reframing is all about discovering the positives in any situation, even failure. Look at the situation in which you feel you failed and contemplate different ways of describing it. Failure is a subjective term. Instead of saying, I failed at finding work, say, I haven't found work yet, or I've been looking for work longer than I hoped. Do not attempt to whitewash your mistakes, but state them without judgment, or just try to look for the best. Another way to reframe the situation is to understand why your attempt was not successful. Then use that information to try again. The only way anyone discovers what does work is by also finding out what does not work. Failure presents you with an opportunity to learn until you get it right. I got to tell you right now, I have a colleague that has been doing an exam, and it's quite complex. And what happens is they have to reach a minimum of 70% to pass. And believe it or not, they've spent a lot of money, and they've tried, and the closest that they got was 66, I think. And then they were just about to give up. And I told them, you're on a journey, and failure is part of it, and you're going to learn from it. And each time you put in an attempt, you're going towards what you want to. You're trying. You know, you are putting your effort forward, and you will get through. And it's okay to take it one day at a time. but you are this close. Do not give up. A motivator is very helpful for people. A positive mindset. Consider all the athletes, scientists, and other successful people who have tried and failed, only to persevere until they achieve their goal. Think Michael Jordan was famously cut from his high school basketball team, only to work hard and become one of the greatest players of all time. He wasn't even a number one draft pick. But look at him today. Try using humor to encourage yourself when you are down. Well, I have not found a job yet, but I have gotten really good at writing cover letters. Seeing the humor in your situation helps you take a step back and see things in perspective. Humor is a key component of resilience. Laughing kindly at yourself will help carry you through those greatest trials. You're going to need to identify those negative thought patterns. With failure often comes a tendency to beat yourself up over it, even calling yourself names. Learn to identify some common negative thought patterns so you can diffuse them. These thoughts may include all or nothing thinking. I have to do it perfectly the first time, or I might as well give up. Catastrophizing, like a catastrophe. This is terrible, but there's no way I can come back from this. Or negative self-labeling. I'm a failure and a phony. When you notice these kinds of thoughts arise, question them. They are coming from a negative, biased, critical place. Instead, I want you to ask yourself, is this really true? Look for evidence, right, against these claims. Write down an affirmation that goes against the negative self-talk. If you keep thinking of yourself as a failure, write something like, I'm a capable person, on a sticky note, and put it on your mirror. Say it aloud to yourself, and you can begin to change your negative thinking. That's just where you can start. Stop ruminating over the failure. Do you find that you cannot stop thinking about what happened? Replaying it over and over in your head? This is called rumination. And instead of providing insight about what you could have done differently or ways to improve, it just amplifies your negative thoughts. Try journaling to put your obsessive thinking to rest. Getting it out of your head and down on paper can give you some relief from rumination and help reveal any underlying fears. See, instead of doing a play-by-play, stop and ask yourself, okay, what have I learned here? Maybe you learned you need to leave 30 minutes earlier for appointments so that you don't show up late to your next job interview. Use mindful meditation, serious, to keep and bring you back to the present. Keep you stable mentally. See, mindful meditation helps you stop worrying about what happened in the past and focus on the here and now. And you can start asking yourself, what can I do differently? I know some of you are out there shaking their head saying, mindful meditation, I never thought of that. Well, you know what? I don't care what a lot of people say, but I'm telling you, try a little bit of it. I didn't say you got to sit down and think about anything particular. I'm saying you got to sit down. And I think even today in 2020, just sitting down and letting the world spin around and just taking a break, right there, that's an opportunity for you to improve. See, when you sit there and you take your breaths, you don't have to think of anything particular. You just got to take some time out and breathe. I don't care if it's 5 minutes. If you sit out there each day for 5 minutes, just taking time for yourself, you're not going to believe how you feel. You're going to feel that you have a place in this world, that you got to stop every once in a while and take a break because time doesn't stop. It keeps going on. Sometimes we have to stop ourselves and relax ourselves and not put so much pressure on ourselves and realize that, you know what? It is a complex place that we're living in. But I got to take care of me so that I can take care of my family, right? My loved ones. But I got to take care of me first. And all this failure thoughts that keep going through my mind, I got to get control of. And there's no magic wand. I got to take time for me. You start doing that thinking in that action, I'm going to tell you right now, you put that together and that's a combination for success. And you're going to see yourself bouncing back because you're learning to address this failure. I want you to address the cause of failure. What happened to throw your goal off track? Could it have been prevented? Think about possible solutions you could have put into action and what their consequences would have been. Were your initial expectations unrealistic? Try discussing your expectations with loved ones and teammates to measure their realism. See, if you fail to get an expected promotion at work, ask for a meeting with your supervisor to discuss where you got off track. Wait until you have moved past the first, right? Emotion, right? That's like a stage of disappointment, that emotion. You know how intense that could be. Once we don't get something, we don't want to talk to no supervisor. We don't want to talk to anybody. Well, that's okay. Take a break. But see, too many of you walk away and you never go back. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, just by you listening to the counselor, there's people out there that was failed because we're failing every day. But they're also listening and going, yeah, you know what? Nobody in my immediate environment told me to get back to it. Well, I'm telling you, get back to it and keep on trying and keep helping and keep working at it and keep believing in yourself. That's what you got to do. You got to keep on trying. And if you fail, you're going to keep on trying. And you're going to learn. Because that's what failure is, an opportunity to learn. If you fail to find the sort of job you had hoped for, try reading the online profiles of people who have that job. Do they have a different educational background that you have? More years of experience? Did they enter the workforce at a different time? If you were disappointed in love, ask yourself if you were putting unusual pressure or expectations on your romantic partner. Did you understand how they were feeling throughout the relationship? Did you support their projects and friendships? Be honest with yourself. Be genuinely honest with yourself. Don't try to defend yourself. Be honest with yourself. If you weren't supportive, but then you want to point the finger later, oh, me, because it's the me generation. But did you support that person? Were you there for them? Could you have done better? And you know what? You can't lie to yourself. You can lie to other people, but you can't lie to yourself. The moment you ask yourself that question, you got to fess up mentally. You do. And you got to live with yourself. But it's okay, because you got another day to make things go your way. I want you to set some realistic goals. See, once you have worked through the causes of your past disappointment, work on setting a more realistic goal for the future. What would you like to see happen next? What sorts of actions on your part could make success likelier? Check with the people you trust to measure the realism of your new goal. For instance, if you just ran your first half marathon and had hoped to run 7-minute miles, you were probably overly ambitious. Try setting a goal for the next race that is just a little faster than your last time. If you run 10-minute miles, try running 9.7-minute miles. Train towards the time you want to achieve. Everybody wants that instant satisfaction, an instant gratification. Me, I want it now. If I don't get it, boo-hoo. And then they call you baby. Well, it's not that you're a baby, it's just you have not learned about success. You do not understand that failure, the richest, most successful people in the world have failed a lot. They'll never tell you that because they're too busy telling you how successful they are. But the people who are down below are sitting up there crying, oh, I didn't get it, oh, it didn't work. So when they get it, and this is the truth, they'll do it 2 or 3 times and what? They give up. They do. Because they don't understand failure. They don't understand the value in the learning. See? That's what the problem is. See, if your previous goal has been to publish a novel by the end of the year, make your new goal more moderate. Your new goal might be to get feedback on your draft. Sign up for some novel editing workshops or hire a freelance editor or a writing coach. Get some help. Get some support. Don't be trying to do that all by yourself. Work on it. And sometimes if you work with somebody, failing together feels even better. Right? At least you can say, I'm not the only one failing. See, a lot of times we get these negative feelings because we're alone. People are looking at me, thinking that it only happens to us. It's easy to fall into that trap. You're not the only one. Wake up. You're not the only one. But if you fail, learn to deal with it. All right? And you could do that by practicing mental contrasting. Strike a balance between optimistic thinking and realistic planning by practicing mental contrasting. First, Imagine your desired goal working out beautifully. Let yourself envision a total success for a few minutes. Next, switch gears and imagine all the obstacles that might arise. Envisioning the obstacles towards achieving reasonable goals can make you feel energized and more capable of tackling these issues. If the goal is unreasonable, however, this exercise is likely to allow you to let go of that wish and instead focus on something more achievable. Just let go of it. No, work on something that's really achievable. And when you achieve that, step by step, keep on going, keep moving forward. I want you to recognize the obstacles between you and your goals should not be considered negative or unhealthy thinking. It's an obstacle, and an obstacle you can get over. The exercise of mental contrasting will help you learn not to cling to unobtainable goals or to dwell on what cannot be done. And you may have to change your approach. Serious. Talking about some brainstorming. Brainstorm ideas and select the one that seems the sturdiest. Use mental contrasting to test the solution out in your head. Ask yourself if you have the resources to put your new plan into place. What new problems are likely to come up? How will you solve them? What needs to be in place before you begin? Avoid repeating the same mistakes. Your new approach should not include any of the strategies that may have caused your last approach to fail. Create a plan B. Even well-executed approaches can fail due to unforeseen complications. Make sure you re-enter the fray with a solid backup plan. See, it doesn't make no sense when you fail if you keep doing the same thing over and over. You're going to have to actually take some of that learning and switch it up. All right? You're going to have to make some adjustment. You can't keep doing the same thing over and then crying, well, why am I not getting it? You're not getting it because you haven't changed the plan up a little bit. You might have to tweak it, make some adjustments. If you studied one way and you didn't get it, don't study the other way. You're going to have to do something different. You might have to get a partner. You might have to get somebody to help you. But too many of us got that pride, or we don't really want to, or nobody wants to do. Suck it up, buttercup. Get with it, right? Get somebody involved. Get someone to help you with it. One of our biggest issues is we fail because we don't want to ask for help. And see, when somebody does help us and we get a hard time and I can tell that they didn't really want to help me. So what? If you want to get down and you want to be successful, you're going to have to ask and continuously ask regardless if you want to achieve your goal. I know there may be some parents out there that are having some difficulty because they know that they might not be feeling like the best parent. Something happens, someone says something to them. Could have been a partner that put them down, pointed their finger, or if they made a mistake, they're being blamed for it. Well, I got to tell you, the counselor's going to tell you, and you better believe it, there ain't no book out there for parenting. Oh, they'll tell you how to do it, but it's different. I mean, they could give you some advice, but parenting, man, we all know. You could be the best model for your kids, and you could try to put everything in place, and it don't work. You'd be surprised. That is parenting. You try to do your best, but see, parenting, there's no blueprint because there's no baby that's the same. So what we have to do is stop putting the blame on ourselves too hard. You got to stop looking at yourself as a failure. You got to understand that it is one of the hardest things to do. I know no one's perfect. There are people doing jobs that aren't that great, but it's a lot on your plate. It's complex. We're talking about human beings. We haven't figured them out yet. We're trying. So don't be so hard on yourself. Becoming a parent is one of the most rewarding yet challenging experiences a person can have. Many go into parenting believing they will know the answer to every question, or that they're going to have the solution, right, to every situation, and will raise respectful and appreciative children. Unfortunately, just about every parent ultimately finds that these high expectations come crashing down very soon after the child is born. Some parents even believe they are failing at this important job. If this is how you're feeling, stop being so hard on yourself. Reevaluate your idea of what successful parenting is and think of a bigger picture. Then you can probably see that you're not a failure. You're just a parent who is doing the best that they can. And do yourself a favor. Don't be comparing yourself to other parents. You know your kids. It's so funny. You don't even know if they come from us sometimes. Some of the things that they say that could be so hurtful. Oh, this one does this. This mother does this. And this mother does that. So it makes you feel bad about yourself. Stop that. Your kids could do it. See, the ones sometimes who are closest to us, they hurt us the most. I don't want you to take that to heart. Don't do that. Don't compare yourself. It's a hard game we're in, people. I want you to avoid being hard on yourself. Know that your children's behavior isn't always a reflection of you. Parents often believe that the way their children act is a testament to what type of parents they are. While this may be the case with some, not every child who misbehaves does so because of the less than stellar parenting skills. Stop taking your child's behavior personally and realize it's never too late to steer things in a different direction. And oh no, I'm going to tell you right now, I've talked to some parents, some clients, and they say, no, you told me that, counselor, but I'm sorry, that's my child. I'm responsible. Society looks at me as responsible. I'm not saying you're not responsible, but what you are is responsible for you. And what your child's doing, you only have so much control over. So what I'm trying to say is don't own every little thing and point yourself out in a crowd like you're different than anybody else. People don't tell you what's going on in their family for good reason, right? You know how that is. It's just natural, right? Your child's difficult behavior may be the result of a disorder, such as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and disorders that are related to depression, anxiety, or substance abuse. Speak with your child's physician. Try to get them assessed. Try to find out what's going on, especially if you're concerned about behavioral issues, right? Understand that feelings of guilt and blame, they're useless. Putting yourself down and feeling like you are less than an adequate parent won't help that situation. In fact, these negative emotions will only hurt you and your family in the long run. Feeling stuck and defeated in these emotions prevent you from moving forward and getting the help you may need or your child may need. Think about that. You need to realize that no one could be a better parent to your child than you. I don't care what the school says. I know it's hard, but they don't know what goes on when you got to go home and you got to deal. So don't take that too personally. Get help if you need it. Listen to some feedback. Be honest with yourself, but it's a challenge. And it's nice to point fingers when you're in the school, but when you got home and you got a number of children that you got to look after, you got to realize that you're doing the best that you can, right? After all, you created them and you got to deal with them. So you're doing what you can. See, unless you are physically, verbally, or sexually abusive towards them, you are likely the best person for the job. Although you may think you can do better, you are doing the best you can, and that is likely all you need and want. And if you are going through so much right now, which is understandably so, we're being pushed to the limit. We got COVID-19. That's another thing that's just added on top of our woes and our issues. But if it becomes too much, stop trying to take it on yourself. All right? If you're not a good parent, be a better parent. Right? See a therapist for self-defeating thinking. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, it's difficult to overcome negative views about yourself on your own. Having an impartial professional help you identify negative patterns of thinking can help you recognize all your strengths as a parent and feel better about yourself. Talk to your primary care doctor for a referral to a mental health provider who can help you with these issues. And I said that's one of the hardest things for people to do. See, most people end up having a nervous breakdown before they got to go and see somebody. We need to stop doing that. We need to take care of ourselves and look at ourselves and go, look, something's going on here. I ain't even acting right. My game is off. I've taken on too much. I know I got a lot of commitment. Everybody has these expectations of me, but no, I got to take care of myself. I want you to stop sometimes to say, what is going on with me? How am I going to do what's good for me? And that may be getting out there and getting some support. They might have to wait, right? You're going to have to do some re-examining. Understand that good parenting involves discipline. You may believe that being a good parent means that you don't have to discipline your child, but in fact, it is essentially the core of parenting. Letting your child do whatever they want, including hurt others and being disrespectful to you without having to suffer any consequences, doesn't benefit anyone, especially the child. Being a good parent means that sometimes your child will be angry with you. Parenting isn't about agreeing with everything your child does, but helping the child learn boundaries and becoming a better person because of it. And that means you might get some help. You might need someone in the family. You might need some support helping keeping your child, you know what I mean, in check. And I'm not talking about physically disciplining. I know there's some cultures out there that are heavy handed. And you know what I'm talking about, slapping them upside the head. I want you people who are yelling at your kids just because somebody did it to you, or slapping your kids upside your head, those delicate brains, you're knocking them around, and then you have the nerve to wonder why your child's jumping over desks and running through hallways like they ain't got no sense. You got to lay your hands in your pocket, right? You shouldn't be hitting your children. You got to raise children with discipline, but you got to understand what kind of discipline. I'm talking about we need to raise our children with disappointment, not physical discipline. We need to understand that that child is not going to learn anything by beating anybody. And you beating their bum, oh yeah, I raised my child fine. Oh, my mother beat me and I'm fine. Are you? If you're passing that on, you might be fine, but the child that you have may not be fine. And that's the issue. Okay? You got to know that your child's achievements aren't a reflection on you. I know you do it when they got their soccer games and they're winning championships, you're all feeling good. But then when they're not, you're all silent. You know what I mean? Seriously. If you're a successful soccer player or you excel in physics but your child doesn't, it doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. Instead of focusing on your child's achievement and feeling bad when they aren't what you hope they would be, provide unconditional love and encouragement for what they are trying to do. Successful parenting doesn't mean your child and your children aren't successful in sports or academics, but that they try their best and are good people. And I can tell you right now, that was hard even for me. I had my children growing up, and I remember when I had one of my children, they were doing sports, and every time they got up there, and I was just like, oh my goodness, it was heart-wrenching, because maybe I was not that great in that sport. But then you know what? They didn't give up. They just tried many different sports. And I learned, and this is something we have to learn. I had to get back. I was verbal. I was a big cheerleader, but then I was also a big loudmouth on the bench, right? Because I was up there saying things. I was like, oh my goodness. And I'd go silent. And then my child would know that I was disappointed. But what I mean is, that's not good. What you need to do is let them live their lives in the sense that you got to show them love. And you got to understand that they're going through the learning process. So I had to step back and let my wife, who was more sensitive and caring, she had to take over because, I was just into it so much that I thought I forgot it wasn't me. So I played that role, and it was not a good role. It was detrimental to their health. And I wasn't realizing it because I was mistaken. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we get into our children so much when they're not doing it what we want them to do. If they're not winning championships or they're not as good, then we look down. What we got to do is understand they're trying, and we got to keep working at it. You know what I mean? And we got to keep believing them, because it might not be that. Maybe that's just not their thing. Or maybe they excel at other things. But we have to be patient and loving and caring no matter what in the circumstances. So when I say raise them with disappointment, I mean let them know you care and let them know that any negative actions, right, that's a reflection of you. You let them know that. You don't just take that on for them. You let them know this is who you are and this is who I love. And I don't want this for you. You got to start thinking about what you want for you. And I know they're young and they think for themselves, and sometimes they don't even consider us. But if you raise them with disappointment when they know that somebody loves them and cares for them, and some of these acts they might not do because they got somebody there that's got their back, they're less likely to do those things. But also, I got to tell you, there's things that happen with your kids that sometimes you ain't even going to be able to see, right? Sometimes those kids are going to be hurting, and you're going to think, hey, I did a good job. What the hell happened here? But the truth is, things happen. The kids get out there. You could have raised your kid all your life, and then all of a sudden they meet up with somebody, and next thing they're doing something that they shouldn't be doing, and next thing you know, you're like, who is this person? And it's because they've had different experiences than you. You've tried everything that you could to keep things under wrap, but things have still gone wrong. Well, you know what? You don't give up on them. You just don't. You still got to believe in them. Good or bad, you got to work with them. They are yours. But you got to do that all the way around. You got to be a balanced individual and understand people are going to make mistakes. But if you just constantly pound and point fingers at people, especially your children, what do you think that's going to be like? Or if you're slapping upside your head, let's say you're physically disciplining your children, all right, and you're not even really mad at them, but you become so accustomed to exerting your emotions and your frustrations out on your child, they don't even deserve it. But you're doing it because it's an act that you have been accustomed to. And that's why I say it's hands off. Learn healthy relationships and learn progressive discipline. And discipline could be taking this away. You know what I mean? Limiting this, right? Removing this and that. And the list goes on. There's such a list. It's called progressive discipline. All right? That's what has to happen. But too many people aren't doing that. So I want you to realize, right, and recognize that you can't do it all. Some parents look at their job as a competition against all other parents. They often believe that the more they do, the better parents they are. This is not the case. Knowing that you are doing the best that you can is all that matters. Not how many cookies you made for the bake sale or how many times you are elected as a PTA president. Enlisting the help of a support team, right, can work wonders. Asking people to help with carpooling or watching the kids so that you can get groceries by yourself isn't a sign of weakness or a sign that you are any less of a parent. It shows that you know what is best for your children, which isn't a parent who is overwhelmed and stressed all the time because they're trying to do too much. We always get caught up in this trying to do too much, right? And it's okay if you have to vent to other parents. Parenting can feel like bumping your head up against a brick wall, especially if you are raising teenagers who are testing the limits. Feeling better about your parenting can be achieved simply by looking to other parents for consolation and support. Talking to them may help you realize just how common some of the issues that crop up in your household really are. Invite some parents from the PTA to play golf, or to come over and have a few drinks, or maybe come over and just sit back and talk. You know what I mean? Come over for some wine sometimes. Make a point to ask them about some of the challenges they face as parents. You may say, what's the most frightening, confusing, frustrating situation you've ever been in with your kids? And then listen. You might be surprised to find out you are all going through similar experiences. Also, make use of their presence to vent some of your own frustrations. Don't feel guilty about it. Sharing your burdens with others can be quite cathartic and actually make you feel more positive in the end. I want you to focus on the positive. I can't even say that enough. Instead of thinking about how often you put your kids in timeout or how many fights you broke up during a day, think of all the positive things you've accomplished. Ask yourself how many times you made them smile, how many books you read, or how often you heard I love you during the day. Thinking of the good things that happen instead of just the bad things that may help you realize you're doing a great job. Well, I'm going to tell you, you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to have to work it out. Just know that you're not perfect, and that's okay. You don't have to be. A parent can only hear so much fighting and screaming before you lose your cool. You can only be yelled at by a toddler so many times before you take disciplinary action. You're not a failure because you aren't able to constantly stay happy and calm-tempered all the time. When you stand back and take a look at what a person can reasonably handle in this type of situation, you'll likely see you're on par. Take care of yourself. You can't expect to feel good about your skills as a parent when you feel depleted yourself. Take time out for yourself. It's necessary in order to feel better and be a better parent to your children. Getting some time alone every now and then can give you a chance to miss your children. You know how people are when they miss you. It's like they don't even know you're some new people. They treat you real good. It can also improve your mood and perspective, which in turn can improve your children's lives. Consume a balanced diet. Get plenty of exercise. Develop a stress management toolbox of coping skills like deep breathing, meditation, right? Progressive muscle relaxation. If you build in healthy strategies into your day or work, you will feel more positive and have a better outlook about your parenting. And I mean, get together with some of the ladies, go on a weekend trip, take care of yourself, go shopping, take a female friend. If you're a guy, get together with the boys every once in a while, break it up. You know what I mean? Get out that house. Stop being a hang around. Sitting up there being a puppy dog, smiling in their face, looking for attention all the time. Let them have their space. Women sometimes need their space. You want to all be one of those hubby who's always wanting that lovey-dovey. Take care of yourself, but be doing what you got to do. You know, take your children out once in a while, you know. I know it's not easy, but it's doable, and you should be doing it. The one thing I do want to say to my listeners is there's a lot of things that children go through, and there's a lot of strategies that I can recommend. And I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to remember this. And I've said it in my podcast before. I remember I was going through some challenges myself with my children, and I was trying everything. I was going to counseling, you know, trying to get support from family, talking to family, and it made me feel better temporarily. And then I said, man, I can't believe my kids are going through it. It's like I don't even know what's really going on. I mean, I can't even explain it. I'm trying, and it never seems like it's enough. And this woman said to me, she said, you know what? You're not hugging them enough. And I'm like, they're adult children. What's going on with that? What do you mean? She's like, you're not hugging them enough. And I went, what? And I actually realized we just get to this point where we just do our day to day. And sometimes we say, oh, I love you, but then we forget to really say, I love you and give them a hug. Because they still need to know that. And I think as we get older, we get this mindset that they need to be independent. But they never need to be independent of your love. But every once in a while, you got to say it to them. It's hard to do. I think the longer you go without doing that, the harder it becomes. I'm telling you, you can say to your kid, I love you. But sometimes they need to feel a hug. You know, that you really care. So I'm telling you people out there, right? It doesn't have to be complex. Sometimes that's all they need. And they don't have to be your kids, right? You got to be appropriate. I'm not telling anybody to go out there and grab somebody's kids and start hugging on them and get arrested. No, that's not what the counselor is saying. The counselor is saying is they don't need to be your kids if you know them, you have good relationships, and you're talking to the parents, and you know what? You've established trust, and you know you're responsible and respectful. Sometimes you give the kids a hug if they need it. If you see them hurting or if they just need a hug, sometimes it's okay to give it to them. You don't need to read a book to do that. But we don't do that enough. And that's the truth. Sometimes we got so much going on in our own lives that we just can't do it. We don't want to take the time, or we just don't feel, oh, they know. They know what's on my mind. They know I love it. Or how about this one? You know I love you, don't you? Oh, yeah, I know you love me. That's great. Right? That is great. That's wonderful. I'm glad you say it. I'm not saying don't say, you know, but I love you and give them a hug. Just a little thing. Every once in a while, I want you to give your kids or the adults or your husband or your wife or your girlfriend or your mistress or whoever. I'm just kidding about the mistress. See, I caught you people. But all I'm saying is give people a hug, especially your kids, every once in a while. Keep them real. Keep them grounded. Keep them close. Right? Let them know that you're there for them. They could be on the other side of the world. If they come, see you even for a minute, give them a hug. Let them know. Don't let them walk out those doors too much just expecting them to be there. Because one day they might not be there. But that's not why you do it. You do it because it's necessary. Especially with what's going on in this world today. We got to show it. All right? If you know it, show it. All right? And if they give you a hug, don't be shying away like, I know some of you because maybe you didn't get it when you were younger. Maybe, because my generation, they didn't really do that. Like in my generation, when my parents, not my generation, but even in my generation, it wasn't even that touchy, lovey, unless it was my mother. But when it came to the father situation, it was a little bit challenging, a little bit different. That communication, you know, men didn't really have that sensitive side. They couldn't even say, I love you half the time. And you got to live with that. But the point is that I had a lot of love other ways from other family members, right? So, like I said, the one thing we got to appreciate is if we're men and we don't have men in our lives and we got family that loves us, other family members, we got to appreciate that. That's love still. So, when you got people in your life that you care about, every once in a while you got to show them a little bit of love, you know? friends, family. Show them a little bit of love that you care. We all going to get into some beef. So when we get into some beefs, we got to back it up, right? We got to change it up. We got to show that we care. Listen, I want to say thank you to my listeners, and I want you to be like the wise old bird and take care of yourself. And remember, failure is an opportunity to learn. Every day you wake up and you breathe, you got an opportunity to change your life, change your mind, and be a better person, or just be the person that shows love and caring and support, right? Because when you do good things, you feel good, right? And then somebody passes it on. But you don't have to be obligated to do anything, but just know what goes around comes around. Do you understand? That's how it is. So take care of yourself, people.